Good afternoon. Like the gentleman said already, my name is Angelica Gant. I'm a junior at Berea College. I'm an African and African American Studies major. I'm a political science and business administration double minor. I'm a part of EPG cohort 13, and I'm honored to speak in front of you today. And I'm going to give you a little bit of insight about my internship and how I connected my first internship with my second my first EPG experience with my second EPG experience with my internship. So when I first began my research or doing research and doing my internship, I was very lost and confused. I didn't know what direction I wanted to go in. I didn't know if I wanted to go into law, if I wanted to go into politics, if I wanted to do something in government, if I wanted to do something in education. And as I continued with my research or looking for searches in my internship, I came to a dead end. So I knew at this point I needed to pivot and do something else for as like advancing my search in my internship. So when I came to this dead end, I went to this networking opportunity, and Dr. Hepburn inspired me to, I was like reflecting on some of the things that Dr. Hepburn had given me, and it was networking was the key thing. And so ultimately I got my internship through a networking opportunity in Berea College in November. And I got this networking opportunity through the Career Development Center. They had this event in Boone Tavern, and I was talking to a different alumni, and alumni was telling me about their experiences in Berea and their career aspirations and how they advanced in their career. And I also started telling people about how my dreams and my goals at Berea College. And I ended up talking to this attorney, and I didn't know he was an attorney, so I opened my mouth and started talking to him. And from that conversation, he gave me his contact information, and the next day I did a follow-up. And with this follow-up, he connected me to another attorney. And this attorney, we started emailing each other for different numbers of weeks. And in December, I did a phone interview with this attorney, and then after I did my phone interview, that same day he offered me an internship at the Hampton County Public Defender's Office, and that's why I did my internship at this summer. I did at the Hampton County Public Defender's Office. It was a 10-week program, and it was 12 of us in total. 10 of those being second-year law students, and 2 of those being undergrad, including myself and another undergrad intern. And the reason why I wanted to do my internship at the Hampton County Public Defender's Office was because I always kind of knew that I wanted to do or go into law or be an attorney, but I never took the next steps to pursuing my passion and wanting to be an attorney. And so that's why I decided to do it at the Hampton County Public Defender's Office. The culture there at the Hampton County Public Defender's Office, they wanted to represent the clients the best way they can. And one thing that they did that was very different, in my opinion, was that they tried to break stereotypes that people most perceive as public defenders. Most people say that public defenders are public pretenders. I actually had a client to say that to me before when I was in doing an interview with him, and he said, "How are you going to best represent me when I'm not giving you any money to represent me? So how are you going to represent the best way and not just push me through the system like anyone else would?" And so dealing with indigenous clients, they always had this different mindset about us not representing them the best way we can. And so with my internship or at this organization, they tried their best to represent the clients the best way they can by breaking these stereotypes, encouraging them to do jury trials, because that's the best way in which you can find justice for a defendant or a defendant that has committed a crime, and not to teach them how to take plea bargains, what ultimately sometimes can hurt them. So my day-to-day functions as a public defender intern was that in the morning time I would go to court and do some observations about different cases. They vary from drug trafficking cases to murder cases, rape cases, you name it. And so in the afternoon, I would do research on the next case that we had to do the next day. So I prepare for the information that I need to present for the next case, or give it to some of the attorneys that I work closely with. I also did some crime scene investigation. I went to some crime scenes and investigated. I also looked at police reports, data about evidence about different cases. I also went to jail and did a lot of jail visits in my internship. And this picture right here is a famous case that happened in Cincinnati this year, and it's called the Ray Tenzin case. And I was there for the decision that happened. And so basically what happened in this court case was that this police officer stopped the defendant because he was missing a front license plate. And ultimately, he ended up killing this black unarmed person in the car. And so Ray Tenzin, basically he got away with murder in a sense because his bail was set at $1 million. And of course, someone paid $1 million. So basically he's free right now based off what happened in that case. And so I did a lot of interviewing when I went to jail to talk to different clients about how we can seek justice for them. Another cool, interesting thing that I did in my internship was something called the Fresh Start Clinic. And the Fresh Start Clinic was a way in which some defendants or some people that had a criminal record, they can come to us and we can help expunge some of the things that are on their record. What was cool about this was that I actually got the opportunity to help some people expunge some of those things off their records. And the first time that I did it, I didn't have an opportunity to do it. I just shadowed the person, and then the next time that I did it, the second time, I actually got an opportunity to do it. So I was really, really excited about that. That was a skill that I got from doing this Fresh Start Clinic. Most people, we charge for the organization I was a part of, we charge $5, but anywhere else where you can go and get your record expunged of certain cases, it was $50. And so I'm glad I got the opportunity to do that. So one of my learning outcomes as I went through my internship was defining justice and what did it mean for me. And as I went through my internship, I learned that justice is not always equal. It's very unbalanced. There are a lot of gray areas in the criminal justice system, especially pertaining to people that are poor and having these extremely large bails for low-level crimes that they have done in the criminal justice system. And as I continued with my internship, this is one of the questions that I focused on, and the question is justice blind? And as I went along with my internship, of course, justice is blind to certain things. There are a lot of different gray areas, like I said, in the criminal justice system, and there's a lot of inequality, and we have people now trying to fight some of the injustices that are happening in the world. So as I advanced in my internship, my primary advisor, Dr. Bay, he advised me to read this book, and it's called The New Jim Crow, The Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness. And as I read this book, it began to allow me to be more aware of some of the issues that are in the criminal justice system. The author in particular focused on two things, and that was the war on drugs. And as I went through my internship, a lot of cases that I dealt with people overdosing on heroin and in Cincinnati, because that was heroin was a big drug that people did in Cincinnati and other opiates. And so this kind of personally affected me dealing with the war on drugs, because I have a close family member that is affected by the war on drugs. And so I was very passionate in trying to find justice and seek justice in the victims that were affected a part of the war on drugs. Another argument that the book really related on and how I found a connection to my internship was the mass incarceration of African American men. And the book, the author really goes into detail about how the mass incarceration rate of African American men has tripled in some jurisdictions. And as I went through my internship, I learned that it's 52.2% of African Americans that are in the criminal justice system in Cincinnati, Ohio, which also correlates to what I was talking about, or what the author was talking about in her book about the New Jim Crow. And I just found that interesting because this is a large percent of African American men in the criminal justice system, and I got this statistic in 2015, and right now the statistic is even higher. The other percentage of this, to equal to 100, is African American women, a low level of African American women that are in the criminal justice system, a low level of white women, and a low level of white men that are in the criminal justice system. As I continued in my internship, of course, I had different obstacles. And one of the obstacles that I faced was being homesick. And so I'm from Birmingham, so I was 8 hours away, literally away from home. And I had a lot of different issues that came up at home, and it was very hard for me to go back home. And so one way that I found to kind of make my homesickness go away was that I'll go home to my second home in Berea College and I'll visit some of my closest friends there, which make me feel like home. And so I always felt like I had that connection back to something, even though I couldn't go home all the time. Another thing that I really got a challenge with was dealing with some of the difficult cases and not taking home some of the evidence and the discovery that I found in different cases. I felt that as I went through my internship, something that really affected me was dealing with murder cases and going to jury trials and seeing family members have to speak on the podium or the stage about what happened or something like that. Looking at some of the evidence, such as the photos in these cases, was very hard for me. It had my stomach turning in different points in my internship. And another thing that I dealt with as a challenge was being that I am one of the undergrad interns among 10 other law students that are second-year law students. Sometimes it was hard for me to get that connection with them, only because they're older than me and they have more skills and knowledge about certain things, which I don't have yet because I'm not in law school yet and they are in law school. So that was a challenge that I had to face in my internship. In addition to some of the challenges, I also had a lot of successes. And one of the successes that I had was that I'm in this picture right here. This is the defendant, and this is my supervisor, and we actually won this case, and I helped him win this case. Basically what happened, it was a minor DUI case and some drug trafficking charges that the defendant was against. And to prepare me to win this case, we had to do a lot of preparation. And what I did in particular was I came up with some questions for the jury trial. I also looked at some of the crime scenes that happened in which the event had taken place. And I also looked at some of the police reports and did a lot of follow-ups with the police to make our client win and basically get free of the charges that he was facing. And he was innocent, and the police officer really just tried to, I guess, pick on him that day. And so we helped him win that case, and that was something that I was very proud of, and that was one of the great successes that I accomplished. Next, I'm going to talk about some of the EPG abilities, and the first thing that I kind of encountered was dealing with ambiguity and uncertainty. And so this happened on the first day of my internship, and I had to go do my jail visit. And it was very different because it's something that I'm not really used to, is going to jail. And the first thing they did was take my cell phone. So I was really kind of freaking out when they did that. A lot of inmates do walk around freely in certain cells, and sometimes the inmates are either working or they're cleaning up or something, and sometimes they're just walking around freely, and it really kind of freaked me out a little bit. But as I continued in my internship, I became more adapted to what was happening. Sometimes their behavior was a little crazy, especially going to the male pod. They always just stare and stuff like that. Whereas I go to the woman quad, they're more calm that way. What I also noticed in the jail was that it's very overcrowded in Cincinnati. Most of the inmates are either sleeping on the floor, they're sleeping in the hallway, and they don't have beds yet. And so some of the issues that I found that was like sometimes the judge would send a defendant to jail for a low-level, non-violent crime, and they can't get out, especially if you're poor. You're not able to post bond on certain things. And so that's why the incarceration rate in Cincinnati, or the overpopulation rate in Cincinnati, is very high. Another thing that I dealt with during my EPG, another EPG ability that I dealt with was action orientation. And for this, I got another networking opportunity, and this was sent to me by the place in which I was living, which was Xavier University. I was living in their halls. And when I went to this networking opportunity, I met with this lady, and she was just telling me about her story and how she advanced in her career. And at the end of this networking opportunity, I got a chance to connect with her in a more deeper way. I met with a ton of different people at this networking opportunity, and as a result of that, my LinkedIn account increased by 60%. I had a 60% increase in the connections that I had by going to this networking event. Also just talking to a lot of interns in Cincinnati, a lot of judges. I got connection with judges now, and so I felt like that was a great opportunity for me. In addition to that, with action orientation, I also got a chance to interviewed 2 different judges. And so how I got this opportunity was from Dr. Hackberg. Dr. Hackberg inspired me, and he told me that if you want to learn something about someone, if you want to be in a position, you have to go out and network with them and do informational interviews. And so that's something that I did in my internship in the last 2 weeks because my supervisor couldn't find anything else for me to do. And so I felt like to add more value to my internship, I decided to do some interviews, and I ended up doing a total number of 20 interviews on the last 2 weeks. And I interviewed with different judges. I interviewed with different attorneys from different ages. I got their perspective on a lot of things, such as how did they feel after they left undergraduate? How hard was it for them to get into law school? And so I feel like this was the most valuable thing that I got in my internship. The most valuable thing I got in my internship. And the next was opportunity recognition. And for opportunity recognition, I actually got an opportunity to work with an attorney. He was a family attorney in my internship. And I connected with him, and I learned how to, I campaigned with him in his, I campaigned with him to be a judge. And I felt like this was very valuable to him because right now, as we speak today, he is still campaigning. He's still running as he's running as an independent. This is his first time running as judge, and I think I brought value to him. That's something that I did outside the scope of my internship. I was very proud of that. One thing that I feel like I wish I could have done better in my internship was probably do more interviews, maybe with some police officers or some prosecutors, because they have a different mindset in what we have for as like public defenders and judges. So I really wish I could have did that, did some more interviews with them. What's next for me? I took this picture the last day, and I'm sitting at the judge seat. And so what's next for me is that I do plan on going to law school, but I also want to connect leadership into whatever I do. I know that I'm going to go into leadership after leaving Berea, and that's whether I'm becoming the president of the United States, or I'm running for judge, or I'm running for mayor, or I'm going to be a politician or something like that. That's what's next for me, I feel like. So the advice that I would give is that to the EPG cohort 14 or anyone else is to take risks. Don't run from challenges. Accept the challenge, embrace the challenge, and move forward. Don't run away from people that will push you to their best ability, because they're here for you and they want to see you conquer and accomplish some of your goals. The last thing I want to leave the audience with is this quote, and it's: a goal without a plan is just a wish. And so for me, I had a goal. I had a dream. This dream turned into a goal, which also turned to a plan of action, and which allowed me to do my internship. And that's it.